Hello everybody and welcome to another Final Fantasy XI video. I am Quetch and today we're going to be talking about some recent changes that Horizon made to the Thief job that I've been pretty vocal about changes being needed, and you know, the devs have told us that they intend to make some changes, and alongside patch 1.2 we actually got those changes. They haven't actually gone live yet. I'm kind of making this video before the changes go live because I've been thinking about it a lot, and in a lot of ways the changes that have come are things that I have been kind of anticipating they might want to be doing for the job. A little bit of like, listening to what the devs have said in Discord and in the Mog House meeting that we had a few months back in preparation for 1.2, but also just a little bit of like lots and lots of playing this job. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I have been a Thief main on Horizon for the entirety of the server's lifespan. Recently, I have branched into attempting to get some other jobs to 75. I got Dragoon pretty far, but then pivoted onto Warrior. But I've been playing this game, you know, a lot. I've been playing Horizon a lot since release and have a pretty intimate understanding of Thief and its issues kind of that have cropped up from, you know, holdovers from what era Thief was like and the few adjustments that Horizon did give to like one-handed DD jobs. And actually, let's talk about that real quick because it's something that you kind of got to like start with to kind of like lay the groundwork, right? One-handed DDs on Horizon were given a 0.75 attack and accuracy scaling. So what that means is for every point of dexterity and every point of strength you have on your job, you get 0.75 of an accuracy or 0.75 of an attack. And those are like the numbers like you can see in your menu, you can see your attack value, or if you check param, you can see your accuracy. And so for example, I've got in my idle set here, I've got, you know, 80 plus 15 dex. So multiply that by 0.75, and that's the amount of accuracy that I'm getting just from dex, right? So accuracy and attack, those both come from your skill level as well. And those numbers in era were much lower. You had a 0.5 scaling for one-handed weapons. I forget the exact number for two-handed weapons. I think it was 0.75 for them. So Thief here has been enjoying a 0.75 scaling since Horizon's launch, and it has allowed Thief to be, you know, less kind of hamstrung by their lack of attack and, in some respects, a lack of accuracy that other jobs had in spades. So, for example, Thief isn't A+ in Dagger in era. So we've been A- here on Horizon since launch, right? So if you just look at the numbers from back in era, you see Thief's main weapon had lower skill, meaning lower attack and accuracy. One-handed weapons had lower scaling, so they were 0.5 compared to two-handers 0.75. And so we were always naturally low on the stats that make you a good DD. One thing that did happen with patch 1.2, alongside with some of the job ability changes that I'm going to be talking about, is Thief was lowered to 0.65, from 0.75 to 0.65. So for every strength you have, you will get 0.65 attack, and for every dex you have, you'll get 0.65 accuracy. So we are getting lowered a little bit, and actually all melee are. I just wanted to bring that up because it is relevant, but it's not the part of the patch that kind of gets me excited. The thing that I am most interested in is the job ability changes. So we got announced technically four different. Yes, it is 4 new job abilities coming to Thief. Well, 3 new job abilities and a rework. The 3 job abilities are pulled from retail, that is Accomplice and Collaborator and Bully, and the one change is coming to Mug. I'm just going to play a little clip here of sort of my thoughts on this topic. Basically last week, as we were getting ready to hear, you know, as we were hoping the patch would be coming soon, and we knew that Thief was getting job adjustments. I don't think it's necessarily that Thief needs a buff, but I'll tell you my issue with Thief and the way it currently is. Thief's kit in battle does not feel good, and it doesn't feel necessary. With the exception of like skill chains on high-level content, there's no reason for us to be there other than Treasure Hunter. And while in battle, our entire kit is hide, trick attack, sneak attack. And trick attack and sneak attack allow us, other than a little bit of hate mitigation, they allow us to make weapon skills that are almost as good, sometimes a little bit better than the other melees. So I think that the devs are in the right sort of mindset when they say they want to add more to Thief's utility, because, like, you know, I'm not looking to do more damage. I mean, it'd be nice, but, like, what do I do while I'm in battle? The entirety of my actions in battle are in order to increase my DPS, but we already know it's not a DPS job. If you address that with a little bit of utility, like a raid-wide buff, right? We all know, everybody says feint. Feint, because it gives that huge accuracy, kind of a broken evasion down effect to the mob, which is an alliance-based accuracy bonus. Personally, I do not want to see feint implemented in the way it's originally was. I think that there's a lot of people like, Horizon just nerfs everything, and those people would be very loud, and I'm about to die, and very vocal if feint got nerfed. I don't want feint in its original implementation. I think it's too much of an evasion down effect. It's too much of a crutch. You know, some sort of alliance help would be nice, and then some sort of help with our positionals, i.e. bully, I think would be good, and I think it would add to Thieves along the leveling process, as well as contribute towards endgame utility. So it's not just necessarily endgame fights. But honestly, I hope they go over and above anything that I could think of. Accomplice and Collaborator are incredibly interesting, and would give players in endgame fights a whole bunch of player agency and choice over the way they use their JAs in a way that would make Thief more interesting. I would love to see one of those two, or both of them on reduced cooldowns. That was my original request a long time ago. Right now, Mug is pointless. Like, literally, like, take your favorite job that you play, chat, and look at your JA list, pick one, and make it useless. I think the perfect example of what I want to see from the job is, in battle, I want player agency. The easiest example of the type of thing that I would like to see is either Accomplice or Collaborator in order to steal some enmity from a party member. Now, you have to ask yourself, okay, do we put a Thief in the Black Mage party and help manage the enmity over there? You know, do we put him in the tank party to help pull it off the White Mage when they pull hate? The agency of our kit in battle is lacking right now, and that's one example of how it could be improved. EXP battle or endgame. I think they have the opportunity here to address the range of Thief. I think it would make sense to give them something more interesting to be doing in the 60s. It's important to give us something to be doing in an endgame situation. I think it would be also good to have something that ends up being useful within a merit or EXP situation. I think the ability is there to address all three of those things. So as you could hear me talk about in that video, I had made some assumptions based on things I had heard, one of which is some kind of help to an alliance, which I assumed would be like a raid-wide buff of some sort. And actually, that's what we ended up getting on Mug. So let's start with Mug. Mug is now going to add a 5% crit boost to your entire alliance. Now, the easiest way to handle that is to do what's called crit evasion down, which is something that you get a little bit more in retail. It actually, I believe it started with Dancer along with Feather Step, but very simply, it just means the mob is crit 5% more often, so it's a raid-wide buff. Everybody that's attacking the mob will benefit from a boosted 5% crit rate, rather than being a buff that gets thrown on everybody, which, you know, typically when you use a JA buff, you can buff your party, but you don't typically buff an alliance, or ever buff an alliance with a JA, unless you are doing something to the mob. And I believe that's what's happening here with this Mug change, which is totally welcome. I will tell you that I have come to Zergs with my Thief because that is my only job, and, you know, we had an extra slot, or I was there for leadership, or maybe it was my orb on a thing like Oryu. And so I'm there as the Thief, and I'm hoping to get a couple weapon skills in with like an Icarus Wing or something. But now I will be able to provide a, again, an alliance-wide, a raid-wide, as some would say, crit boost. Which is great. It's 30 seconds long. And that's typically the size you have for like a chain spell stun situation on like a Dynamis Lord, and now everybody will be critting 5% more. Cool. I mean, welcome. Mug has been practically useless. You know, maybe you make a little bit of gil, but that's not really helpful to the people, right? So part of the sort of idea that the devs had laid out for what they want to do for Thief is that they wanted to give your alliance a reason to bring a Thief, and I think this is a great start. You can bring us to a Zerg, so you know, if you bring a Dragoon to a Zerg for their 2 hour, their 2 hour applies a 20% defense down effect that lasts for, I think, 1 minute, plus Dragoon just dishes out damage. If you had to bring a Thief, you didn't really want to, unless that mob dropped items. You know, say you're fighting Tiamat or something, yeah, you bring a Thief in for Treasure Hunter, but that was your sole reason. You bring a Thief to Bahamut version 2, and all of a sudden, we don't have much use, again, outside of those handful of weapon skills that we end up being able to produce. So now we provide a 5% crit rate buff for your DPS window. Good stuff all around. That makes you want to bring a thief into your alliance. It's a good start. So let's move on to the next two job abilities that have been added and have been changed for Horizon. So first up, we have Accomplice, and they're giving it to Thief at level 45, and it's been modified from its original retail implementation to be usable on Alliance members with a 5-minute cooldown, and it steals 50% of a target's enmity. If you've been following my streams or my YouTube channel since I've been playing retail, you may have heard me complain about specifically Accomplice and Collaborator in the past. My main complaint was that they were on a shared cooldown timer, which has been split here on Horizon. And the other complaint is they're not really that useful because if you want to use the good one, which is Accomplice at 50% stealing of the target's enmity, you have to be in party with that person, first of all. That's just like baseline, like that just makes it so you need to be very specific, especially if you're in Alliance content. But mainly, if you want to use the good one, you're on a 5-minute cooldown, and retail is just too fast for that. By the time you're able to like take a target's enmity, your cooldown's too long, and on top of that, you have no way to naturally throw off your enmity. So I'm actually going to jump on over to Collaborator right now because I think this is the most important aspect of these thief changes is in the change to Collaborator. Collaborator is now a 5-minute cooldown, and it's split from Accomplice, but most importantly, instead of taking your target's enmity, which originally it would take 25% of the target's enmity, it now gives 50% of the thief's enmity to whichever target in the alliance that you choose. I will tell you something. As a thief main, a very common question that let's say common misconception, because there's people that don't even ask, they just assume this, and it's actually been, over the years, has been something that people have just thought about Thief that just isn't true. People tend to think that Thief's ability Trick Attack actually grants the Thief's enmity to the target, but that's not how Trick Attack works. Trick Attack just gives the amount of enmity you would have produced with your weapon skill or with your hit if you're just doing a free Trick Attack. It just grants that enmity to the target that received it. The Thief was never actually giving up any of their enmity to the target. They would just push off the enmity they would have produced. Collaborator now gives half of your enmity to the target. That includes tanks. That includes tanks that are in an entirely separate party. That is an insane buff. Now, obviously, Accomplice and Collaborator are on separate cooldowns, so the wombo combo, the obvious wombo combo here is, steal 50% of the enmity from a black mage that's maybe at enmity cap, and just shove that onto the paladin using both of your JAs. Totally reasonable, and likely the thing that you're going to be doing with this combination of job abilities. But the mere fact that you can push hate onto whatever target you want increases Thief's overall in-battle kit in exactly the way I was hoping it would. We now, in battle, have the ability to make decisions that benefit the Alliance in a strategic way. So I can build whatever hate I want in the Alliance, maybe siphoning off some hate from a black mage or a white mage, and maybe not immediately shoving that hate off. Maybe I just shadow tank for a few hits in a pinch if a tank is getting hit in a way that they can't get their shadows up, say they're paladin sub ninja, or say they're just ninja main, they're starting to take hits. I can yoink a bunch of hate off of a white mage or a black mage and shadow tank for a little bit, take some of the pressure off of the main tanks, and then when they're ready, then shove that hate off onto them. I now have a choice. This has fundamentally raised the skill cap on the Thief job in a way that is incredibly important, incredibly useful, and good players are going to make excellent use of. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a tiny bit of let's say trolling that can be done if the Thief can shove off their hate onto another party member. And look, who here has not Trick Attacked onto somebody in like Dynamis and gotten them killed? It's just a fact of life and how the job plays. But these changes, along with alliance-wide targeting, has given the type of agency that I was looking for and my original hopes for the job. Again, I haven't gotten to play with this yet, but it's exactly what I'm looking for. Next up and last up is Bully. So Bully has been implemented here differently than it is on retail. Bully on retail gives some percentage chance to intimidate a mob, as long as allowing you to sneak attack from any angle, which is something that I thought they would want to give to Thief, just judging from, the idea that they want to make changes. It makes sense, and I think a lot of players are going to be missing this. They're going to want that, like, sneak attack from any angle. But let's take a look here at exactly what Horizon changed. So now Bully's sole job on a 1-minute cooldown is the next status bolt you shoot will have a guaranteed proc rate against non-NMs and a much higher proc rate chance against NMs. There are basically 3 things that I was hoping, one of which was some kind of raid-wide buff, which we got in Mug. The second of which was some kind of player agency given to Thief in battle, which is hands down Accomplice and Collaborator, but also Bully. But Bully also with this change actually also takes care of the third thing. I wanted to see something that Thieves could use in the leveling process, so that way players didn't feel like the changes only affected endgame. And that change, the change that I think is going to affect that the most is right here in Bully. So when you look at status bolts, we have Bloody Bolt, we have Acid Bolt, we have Sleep Bolt, and we have Blind Bolt, each of which have their usefulness. Maybe Blind Bolt a bit less than the others because the proc rate seems to be abysmal. I have tried both ranged accuracy sets and intelligence sets, and I still land one in every 20 blind bolts. But acid bolts are excellent. They provide a 20% defense down for the duration of the effect. And most importantly, in the leveling process, they can dispel Cocoon from a crawler or the defense boost from crabs. Crawlers and crabs are 2 mobs that you do fight on your leveling process up until 75. You will occasionally hit a camp where these kind of defense boosts are there, and the Red Mage can dispel them? Sure. The Bard can dispel them? Yes. Do you have either of those jobs in every party comp? No. Also, if the Thief does it, that also improves your damage because you're also applying a defense down. In some ways, it's actually better that the Thief dispels with their Acid Bolt than, say, a Red Mage does with Dispel. Making a 1-minute cooldown that guarantees an Acid Bolt against EXP mobs is enormous. It's so helpful that I honestly, I just wish they would give it to you a few levels sooner when you're in your prime range to be fighting, say, Crawlers and Rolandberry, or Crawlers and Crawler's Nest, even. The one complaint I have about this patch is that Bully, it comes just a touch too late to a Thief's kit. But either way, amazing for the EXPing and leveling Thief, but also very good for things like Kieran, where you get an increased chance to land your acid bolts. I have shot Kieran many times with acid bolts when it, say, runs away to go, 2-tap a mage, or just hate gets wonky for some reason and the mob gets a little out of range. I'll throw an acid bolt. I'll get a little TP from the bolt landing, and maybe I land the proc. I'd say I land, again, probably, honestly, about another 1 in 20 proc rate landing on Kieran. But now I have an increased chance of doing that. So the moment Kieran starts to run away, crack Bully, and then toss an acid bolt, and maybe it lands. It has a higher chance of landing. Great. In all, I don't think that Thieves are going to be relied upon for landing their acid bolts on stuff like Kieran or any kind of Zerg fight in general. But now it's an option. The player agency has increased. You have something you can do to try to make the situation better. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't in that circumstance. But I promise you, I will be using every ounce of this new kit of Thief abilities in everything I attend. Excellent, excellent changes. I'm really excited to start using them. As of the time I'm recording this, the patch drops tomorrow, Friday the 17th of November, and I'm really excited to be both MPKing my friends, taking hate off the Monk in our Limbus group, who occasionally pulls because Monk is very strong, assisting the Black Mages and White Mages in a fight like Fafnir or Nidhogg, having Bully for those clutch Sleep Bolts or Acid Bolt procs. Maybe this improves the rate at which Blind Bolts land to make them really useful in solo situations. Yeah, I just wanted to get my early thoughts out and let people know kind of like where these changes land for a Thief main, and definitely leave your comments down below and let me know what you think. Do you like the fact that Bully has been changed the way it has? Are you excited to be able to finally push off your hate as a Thief? To me, that is something I am very much looking forward to. But anyway, that's it for me. This has been Quetch, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, YouTube. Peace out.